Hi everyone, it's Shannon and welcome to my channel, The Daily DIYer. Today I have 20 amazingly easy, simple, and affordable Easter DIYs to share with you. So let's go ahead and jump right into our very first Easter project. I still am all about the farmhouse style. I just absolutely love it. If you do too, give this video a thumbs up. I love these rustic and primitive style carrots. They fit right in with that style. So you can see what I'm doing here is actually taking a canvas tote bag from Dollar Tree and cutting it apart. We're gonna be using the back side because the front of course has that design on the front and we don't want to use that. And we're cutting it at an angle from corner to corner to create these 4 triangles. And now these are going to be the base of our carrots. So we need to fold these in half. We have a point facing to the left and you're going to pull the top and bottom points together on the other side. Run a bead of glue up the edge and press that together so you make a nice seam. I went ahead and did that for all 4 of my triangles so I can create 4 carrots all at one time. Once the glue had set, then I went ahead and flipped the carrots right side out. Now we sort of have this awkward point at the top. We're just going to take our scissors and cut that off so that it is flush at the top, creating a cone shape. We're going to go ahead and repeat this for all of the carrots, and once that's finished we're going to use some stuffing to stuff our carrots to make them fluffy. My little trick for this is actually use stuffing from inexpensive pillows from Walmart. These pillows are only about $2 or $3 a piece, and you can just use the stuffing from the insides of those in your carrots. I'm also adding some greenery from Walmart. These boxwood sprigs were only about 96 cents, I think, and that's what I'm using for the tops of the carrots. And to secure it in place, I actually use some jute or twine to close it up, and a little bit of hot glue too to make sure it stayed closed. These cute bunnies are actually something I remember from my own childhood, and my grandma used to make them. So I decided to recreate them using Dollar Tree items. I'm starting with a fleece baby blanket and cutting a strip off of the side. I didn't want to use the seam, and then I am cutting a square out of the center. Now you're going to take your square and turn it into a diamond shape. We're going to pull the bottom corner up to the top corner to create a triangle, and then you're going to roll your fabric up to the top point. Now we're going to take this and we're going to add an egg to the center, and you're going to wrap your fabric up to the top and use some ribbon or some lace or some twine to tie a bow. I love to use moss in my spring decor. It just makes everything look so bright, happy, and vibrant. So this is a cute way to make an Easter decor piece. Using some moss from Dollar Tree, I'm starting with a canvas from Dollar Tree and wrapping it with some muslin fabric, using my fabric hot glue to keep the fabric in place around that wood frame. You want to make sure you get all along the edges and also those corners and cut off any excess that might be kind of hanging over, but just make sure you have a nice flat surface once your canvas is covered. And now this is actually a wooden sign that I cut the bunny off of from Dollar Tree and then used my hot glue to glue the moss onto the bunny and then cut around the edges to clean it up. Another trick is you can use some hairspray and spray it on your moss, and that will help it from shedding so much. Then I ran some Dollar Tree lace around the edges, hot glued my bunny on top of the canvas, and also added that pretty metal Easter decorative piece from Dollar Tree onto the front too that really gave it that finishing touch. Next, I have 3 different garlands you can create with Dollar Tree items. First up are these speckled egg and wood bead combinations. This is a really easy way to add holes to your plastic eggs to turn them into garland. So I have a wood burning tool. They're very inexpensive. I got mine on Amazon, and I'll make sure to link it down in the description box below. It comes with a point that just will go right down into the tops of your eggs and melts so easy. The other end of your egg also already has a hole in it. They come that way. So basically I just went through and added a hole into the pointier ends of all of these speckled eggs from Dollar Tree. These wood beads come in so handy for anything farmhouse related. This is a multi-size set that I also got from Amazon. I'll link these down below. So you can kind of make your own pattern if you want different sized wood beads for this, or if you want all the same like I did. You can just use a really large needle and kind of feed it onto some twine, which is also from Dollar Tree. And I just kind of made my own pattern with the wood beads and the Easter eggs. This banner, we're actually going to use some paper bags from Dollar Tree and some of their wooden cute bunnies to make this Ray Dunn inspired banner. So like I said, we're going to start with some brown paper bags that you can find at Dollar Tree. So since they come with so many in these sets of bags, you can make tons of these banners. You can make so many different things actually with paper bags. What I'm doing is just cutting the folded bottom edge off. We're not going to use that part. And then what we're going to do is we are going to fold our paper bag in half lengthwise. You kind of end up with a big rectangle, and we're also going to be cutting the end where there's that little half circle cut out from the end. We don't want that at the top of our banner, so we're going to put that at the bottom of our banner and cut it off at an angle. So you're going to cut from the fold up to the point, and that is going to create a dovetail effect on the bottom of our paper bags. Now take one of your bags and open it up. You can see we're going to end up with 2 pieces at sort of one time, but we need to cut those apart. We're going to cut these side pieces off So take your scissors, run it down the natural seam of the paper bag, and that way you will end up with those 2 banner pieces once you cut those sides off. Now I layered my 4 bag pieces together and punched holes in the corners all at the same time, just to kind of save a little bit of time and also get the same look for each one. Once I had the holes for where we're going to add the twine later on in the bags, I laid them out, and since I wanted this to kind of have a Rae Dunn inspired look, I took a black Sharpie marker and wrote hip hop onto the fronts of each bag. You can write anything you want. You could even write separate letters to spell out Easter or spring. So get really creative with this part and create something that works with your own home's decor. Now to work on these cute wood bunnies, we're actually going to decoupage some buffalo plaid fabric right onto the bunnies. So what I did is I put Mod Podge onto the wood piece, put them underneath the fabric, and put more Mod Podge on top, waited for that to dry, and then cut out around each bunny with some really sharp scissors, being careful as I went around. That is basically just going to cover our bunnies in that pretty fabric. Left to do is string our banner up together. Again, I'm using a Dollar Tree twine. You can find this in the automotive section over by some of the tools and things. It comes in really handy. It's a nice strong twine. It's also white, so it tends to match pretty much anything. And this is what it looks like on my console table in our entryway. I love the look of this really neutral and farmhouse style Easter banner. It has a really pretty speckled egg theme, and I'm going to show you how easy it is to get this effect in this tutorial. So we're starting with wooden eggs from Dollar Tree, and I'm giving them all a base coat of white chalk paint. You're also going to need some type of dark gray paint. It doesn't have to be chalk paint. You could also use acrylic paint for this. And what I have is just a little bit of water in a dish, and I'm adding my paint to the water to water it down. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our paintbrush and hit it against our finger or your hand, and you're going to splatter your paint onto those eggs. So kind of be sparing with it, but you can add more if you want more later on. Add layers, or you could go really easy on it and just add a few speckles here and there. It's just really up to you, the look that you're going for. This is super easy and a super fun process too. And you just want to make sure you let all of your paint dry before we move on to adding it to our string to create the banner. So now there is a little bit of a trick to this, as the eggs do have holes in the top, but if you just string them onto twine, then they're going to hang crooked. So what I did is I actually added a loop onto each egg individually first. So you'll see here I am taking a length of jute, a smaller length, and I am folding it in half so that the end pieces meet up and you're creating a loop in the center. We're going to take that loop and we're going to feed that through the hole in our wooden egg, and we're going to tie a knot. And then this string is what we're going to tie onto the actual garland string individually. And the cool thing about this is then you can move your eggs around on your garland, and then they're not stationary as well. So once you have all of your strings on each individual egg, then you can go ahead and tie those onto your longer garland rope piece. Then I'm also taking some burlap from Dollar Tree and cutting lengths of it and tying them randomly in between each one of the eggs. That's giving this more texture and a little bit more interest, and really gives it that farmhouse look. Now, sticking with that beautiful farmhouse theme, we're going to make this raised egg tray, starting with a wax melt, ceramic wax melt stand from Dollar Tree. I'm using my chalk paint for this because chalk paint pretty much sticks to anything, so this is great for this type of material because it's less likely to chip off. I also have a plastic egg tray from Dollar Tree that I'm also coating the underside with the white chalk paint so that they match once we piece them together. After I got that first coat of white chalk paint on, I noticed that you could see the inside of the stand, so I decided to go ahead and add some chalk paint to the inside as well, and also give everything a second coat. Since mine was just for a decorative piece, I went ahead and painted the top side too of my egg tray. If you're going to be using this for real eggs, then I would kind of skip actually painting the top side. And then I also wanted to give this an enamel look. So I'm taking some black chalk paint and adding some of it here and there on the higher raised surfaces of the pieces to give it that chippy enamel look. Then to piece it together, I just used my hot glue on the rim of the wax melter and flipped it upside down onto the back center of the egg tray. You could also use some E6000 for this if you like, and that'll be a little bit more permanent. And you can also add a couple coats of a clear glaze, and that'll shine it up, and it'll also make it all look like the same type of finish. Now we're going to turn a kid's Easter basket into one that has more of a farmhouse feel and look. So I'm removing the handle and the sticker from this pink basket, and I am spray painting it with a white spray paint. I did have to do a couple coats because of all the little spaces on the sides, and I also flipped it upside down and did the inside too. Now we're going to take some of this burlap ribbon from Dollar Tree and cut a length that goes all the way around the top rim. I also glued it in half and folded it in half to kind of double up the thickness and make it a little bit smaller instead of just cutting it in half down the middle, and use my hot glue to keep it all in place. And then I wrapped it around that top edge with my hot glue. Had these metal labels on hand from Hobby Lobby, so I decided to use one of them on the front of this basket. The labels were flat though and the basket's round, so I took my chalk paint bottle and kind of wrapped it around there and created the curve that I needed for the basket. These little labels also come with brads which fit right through the holes in the basket, so I just stuck them on that way, and then you can add a name on a piece of paper into these labels. If you're going to be using them for giving gifts or for your little ones for Easter egg hunting or for giving them an Easter basket with, and it's a fun way to just kind of label your baskets. And then the next thing I did is add a more farmhouse style handle. So I have nautical rope from Dollar Tree. I used a drill to drill holes into the sides since the teeny little holes were much too small for this size rope. And then I took some thinner jute and wrapped the handles together, and that's what kept the handles from slipping right back out of those holes. This is another fun way to use the speckled eggs from Dollar Tree. And I'm also going to show you how you can create holes in these eggs in a different way instead of using the wood burning tool. I'm actually taking a drill and a small drill bit and drilling right into the plastic. Works just as good, so use whatever you have on hand. If you want to use the wood burning tool, it's kind of an easier, quicker way. And less messy way too, but whatever works for you. I just went through the line of all of the Easter eggs and made sure I had holes in both ends, and then we're going to start working on piecing this together. Alright, so now let's make our wreath. I kind of lined my eggs up in the order that I wanted them to go onto the string with. So I took some jute and put some tape on the end to make a really long and primitive needle type so they would fit through the end of both ends of the Easter eggs. I just went through and fed each egg onto my jute. And now we're going to tie the ends of the jute together to create our wreath shape. and it is sort of a flimsy wreath at this point, and I'll show you in just a minute how we're going to fix that. But before we get to that point, I did want to add a bow to this wreath to, of course, make it look like a wreath. So I'm using some burlap ribbon from Dollar Tree, and to create this really simple bow, you just basically make a big circle, put your ends together, and then find the middle. Crease the center there to create loops on each side. You'll add some string to the middle to hold it all together. Then we're going to make the tails separately. So I'm creasing the center of a length of ribbon and then tying that onto the middle of our loops. Then you can go ahead and cut your tails at an angle to give it more of a finished look. I also left the string long on the back of the bow when I tied it so I could tie it onto the wreath, and that's what's going to keep that in place. Now we have the issue of our flimsy wreath to take care of. So what I did is actually flipped it upside down and added some hot glue to the connector points of where each egg was touching each other. And that is what really made sure everything stayed together and in place and gave it its stability. This bunny is sort of a take on some expensive burlap versions that I had been seeing online. So instead of using burlap, I decided to create one using some packing paper from Dollar Tree and this Easter bunny hanging from Dollar Tree as the template. So what I did is I folded the packing paper in half and traced that hanging onto the paper and cut two out at the same time, so that way I would have two pieces, a front and a back. Now I also wanted to create a pretty design for the front of this bunny, so I went over to my photo editing software. I'm using the font Lavanderia and creating a 5x5 size design in this program. So once I had it scaled to where I wanted it, then I sent it over to my printer and printed it. And then I'm going to show you how to transfer this design onto the front of the bunny. This is sort of a good alternative if you don't have great handwriting like I do, or if you just want to try something new and different. So what I've done is cut out my design and flipped it over to the back, and I'm adding some charcoal onto the back. You could also use some heavy lead from a pencil and get the same type of effect. Then you will flip it right side up and place it onto your bunny wherever you want it. I also added a little bit of painter's tape on the top to make sure my design didn't move around as I was working on it. And now basically we're going to make an outline of where we need to fill in with our marker later on. So you're going to take a pen or a pencil, something hard that you can run along the outside edge of your font. You're going to do this all the way around. And now that you can see your outline, you're going to take a marker and just fill in all of those empty spaces. Now we're going to put our bunny together and stuff him. I'm starting at the top with the ears, so I created an outline with my hot glue and made a small pocket, and I'm using some tissue paper from Dollar Tree to use as stuffing for him. So I'm stuffing his ears first and then working my way down to his head and then his belly, stuffing as I go. Once he was closed up, I went around with my scissors to clean up any of the unevenness, and then I decided to dress him up just a little bit more, and I gave him a ribbon collar and bow around the neck, and I also added a little piece of jute to the back to create a hanger. A lot of the burlap versions of these bunnies I was seeing were upwards of $50 or more, but mine only cost about $1 or $2 to create. This sweet little bunny pillow is very similar to how we created our paper bunny, but we're going to make it using a t-shirt from Dollar Tree and tea staining it. I really wanted this to have a farmhouse look instead of just solid white, so I heated up some water on the stove, added some tea bags to a metal bowl, and poured my hot water in. I let this steep for a little bit and then removed the tea bags. I also added some more water because there wasn't quite enough, and then added my t-shirt in there to let it sit and soak up and stain. I pretty well let this sit and cool down before I took it over to the sink and rinsed it out, and then I actually let it sit and dry all the way, and even put it in the dryer for a little bit to make sure it was completely dry before I crafted with this material. Now to create our bunny pillow. I actually just free-handed the shape of a bunny on the front of the fabric with a pencil, so I just lightly drew it on. Once I was happy with the way it looked, I took some pinking shears and cut out the silhouette a little bit larger than the actual lines that I drew to give it a nice edge. The pinking shears create a zigzag pattern, and it also kind of helps keep your fabric from fraying. Now again, we are going to hot glue our edges together, starting with the ears at the top and working our way down. I'm using the same trick as I did the farmhouse carrots in our first project, and using stuffing from Walmart pillows to stuff the bunny with. Once it was stuffed, I added some hot glue to the bottom where his feet were to close up the pillow. And then last, I added a ribbon necklace for him and a bow. I had some wire ribbon on hand and it was just way too thick, so I took my pinking shears and cut the wire edges off, and that created a slimmer ribbon for me to work with. I just tied that around the neck and tied a really simple and easy bow. This is another easy way to dress up your speckled eggs from Dollar Tree using some white chalk paint and also some stencils. I created these stencils on contact paper, and I have a full tutorial on how you can use your vinyl machine to create stencils using contact paper, and I will make sure to link that down in the description box so you can go check that out. You can use a Cricut or a Silhouette to create this technique. You can also just go to the store and find some smaller Easter stickers, and that kind of works the same way too. I also have some foam and some barbecue skewers from Dollar Tree. I'm going to insert, or actually I'm going to put my sticker onto the front of my Easter eggs first and pop those Easter eggs onto a barbecue skewer. That way I'm not going to get a bunch of paint onto my fingers as I'm working with these. And also it's going to keep our eggs off our countertop, and so they won't roll around, and kind of take some of our paint off in that process too. So you can still sort of see through the white chalk paint after the first coat, so make sure to do at least 2 coats for good coverage, and once it's completely dry, then you can go ahead and take your eggs off of the skewers and remove your stencils off of the front to reveal your pretty design. love these cute little miniature carrots that Dollar Tree carries. I decided to make the most quick and simple garland using them and some jute. All I did was tie the top parts of the carrots onto some jute and hung them up. These are farmhouse style looking carrots from a very unexpected product from Dollar Tree. I'm actually using a jump rope and completely taking it apart. So I am popping the plastic green top from the tops of the carrots. You also want to save that green part. We're going to be using that. So you want to cut the rope off of the plastic part, and you can discard the rope or save it for another project, but make sure to hang on to those green pieces. To give these carrots a weathered look, I'm starting with some gray chalk paint first. So they all got a coat of the gray first, and then once that was dry, I came back in and dry brushed over it with white chalk paint. I also wanted to mention, make sure you are painting those green pieces too, so they will blend when we go to assemble this. Now to make, instead of regular greenery at the top. We're going to use some jute and basically make a tassel type topper for it. So I'm just winding the jute around to make it all the same size and make a big group of it. Once I had it the length I wanted, make sure it also fits within those green pieces that we painted. You're going to feed it through the top part and tie a knot so that they stay in place, and then you can pop your green and your jute right into the tops of your carrots. This is one of my favorite banners. It's so cute with the little cotton tails. We're going to make this using book pages from Dollar Tree chapter books. Again, I'm just freehanding a simple bunny shape. You could even go on to Google and just type in bunny silhouette and find a shape and cut that out and use that as a template if you wanted to do it that way too. I just kind of took my time and drew this out onto one of the book pages and use that as a template for the rest of the little bunnies that I cut out. Next, you'll want to punch holes with a hole punch into each one of the bunny's ears. And as you can see, we're going to be using cotton balls from Dollar Tree to create his little cotton tails with. I'm using some tacky glue to affix the cotton balls onto the paper. Then you can use some ribbon, twine, or jute to feed through each hole in the bunny's ears to create your garland. And this is a cute way to dress up greenery that you may already have, or like I'm going to show you here, we're going to create our own using some odds and ends like this recycled can that I'm just wrapping with some really cute pink buffalo plaid ribbon. Next, I'm going to add some Dollar Tree styrofoam to the inside of the can because I'm also going to add a bit of greenery to the top from a topiary that I wasn't using anymore. It was actually from the Target dollar spot, and I popped that right into the top of the can. And then we're going to give him some ears. So this is some floral wire that is already wrapped in like a brown type material. So I cut out some lengths of the wire and created some bunny shaped ears, and also left some of the wire long at the bottom so that they would be long enough to stick down into the styrofoam. And then to make it look a little bit more like a centerpiece, I took some Dollar Tree burlap ribbon and lace and added a small bow to the front. This is a bunny that anyone can really make, and you possibly could even make it for free because we're going to be using some leftover cardboard. So whether you have some from boxes, from shipping, or some laying around for storing things in, this is pretty much a free project. So what I'm doing is actually freehanding a bunny onto one of the pieces of cardboard. We're also going to be giving him a shiplap look using a marker and some white chalk paint. So once I had my bunny cut out with my razor blade, I used the bottom as a template to create his feet and also cut a hole out of the middle so he would eventually stand up on his own, and those feet were going to be his base. Now to create that shiplap look, I'm using my white chalk paint and completely covering the bunny, sides and all, also his feet too. To get those straight lines for the shiplap, I'm using a ruler, and I'm basically just going off my first line and going from top to bottom and using the width of the ruler to create the shiplap. I also added a few little smudges here and there on those lines so it looked a little more rustic. To get him to stand up, I just stuck him into that hole we cut previously and added some hot glue, held it in place until that glue was set and he was able to stand up on his own. Next, I added some pink ribbon around his neck and a simple bow. Not only are you going to learn how to make this cute buffalo check sign, but I'm also going to show you how to paint buffalo checks so you can get that effect on anything. We're starting with this banner style sign from Dollar Tree. I took it to my workshop and sanded the back. It had glitter on it, and I just really wanted to get rid of everything because I really wanted to use the front. So I used 80 grit sandpaper and sanded it all down so it could be prepped and ready for painting. So now that the sign is ready to go, I am taking my white chalk paint. I also had this cute bunny head and painted it white. And you're also going to paint the bottom part of your sign white. So I taped off the top edge because we're going to paint that in more of a wood look. It's going to give it a nice contrast. So to start this buffalo check process, like I said, paint your base completely white. Now to get our first set of lines, we're using 1-inch size painter's tape. You're going to put 3 next to each other and remove the one in the middle. Move it down below the next one to basically create a spacer so that all of your lines are spaced out evenly. Then I'm coming in with my gray chalk paint and creating those first set of vertical lines. Once that's dry, you're going to remove the tape. You're going to flip your sign 90 degrees, and we're going to add vertical stripes starting in the middle, working our way out again with 3 strips first, moving the middle one over to create a placeholder, and continuing that throughout the front of your sign. Again, we're going to be using our gray chalk paint to fill in the spaces. So here's what it looks like after that next layer of paint is dry. We are going to leave on this layer of tape though. Do not take this off. We're going to flip the sign back to the original position, and we're also going to replace that first layer of striped tape right back where we originally had them. So you can kind of see through the paint where those lines are. You just do your best to reline them up. And this next layer of paint, we are going to add black. So what you're going to do is let your black paint completely dry before removing the tape, and that is going to be when the magic happens, when our buffalo check print is magically revealed. And if this process went a little bit quickly in this tutorial, I actually do have a full tutorial on how to create 2 different looks with buffalo check, and I'll make sure to link that video down in the description box below, and that video will really slow it down and give you more detail if you'd like to watch that. And then, like I said earlier, I wanted the top strip of wood to have more of a wood look, so I took some brown acrylic paint and painted it, and then also took a paper towel and wiped some of it off so it had more of a stained look than a painted look, and then let that dry. Next, I wanted to add my bunny head onto the front, but I also wanted it to be a little bit more defined. So I took my black paint and went around the edges of the bunny head, and that sort of gave it a chippy enamel look too, which I was really liking. But I didn't have any mounting tape on hand, which is like a double-sided foam to give it a raised look. So I had some felt feet or felt pads from Dollar Tree on hand, so I decided to use those instead. They're sticky on one side and felt on the other, so I just stuck the sticky side to the bunny head and hot glued the felt side down, and that's how I got that raised sort of 3D look. Now these are definitely farmhouse carrots. My mom had actually given me an old wooden baby bed a friend had on hand and offered to me. So I use these spindles for lots of different projects, and these carrots were a fun one to create. So these are just some pieces, some extra pieces from cut down other projects, and then extra sections I had left. So I did sand down any of the cut edges to smooth them out, and then I had some orange chalk paint and just coated them with one layer. I really liked the dark wood sort of showing through. It kind of gave it a rustic look. And I did use some Dollar Tree grass for the tops, but I needed to drill holes into the ends of the spindles so that I had a place to stick that grass down into. And I also used some hot glue to help keep that in place. And then I also added some jute bows around the top that kind of covered up the awkward space between the grass and the spindles, and also dressed it up a little bit. I definitely am obsessed with Rae Dunn, but I do not need any more mugs. I definitely have a full collection. So what I like to do is actually flip mine to the back side and add my own decals onto the front. I use Oracle number 651 matte black vinyl, and for the Rae Dunn font, I use the font The Skinny, and I create decals that are 3 inches wide by about 2 1/4 inches tall, and scale them and size them down to fit. So what I'm doing here is just weeding my vinyl, and I will also put a link to the vinyl that I used down in the description box below. You can find it on Amazon. And then I also have these decals available in my Etsy shop, which I will also link down in the description box. So if you do not have a vinyl machine, I do have these available over there. along with lots of other Rae Dunn style decals for different holidays and seasons. You'll also need a transfer tape to be able to transfer your vinyl onto the front of the mugs. If you don't have Rae Dunn mugs, Dollar Tree does have great white coffee mugs that you can use too. Even Walmart has some, and I think they're only like 96 cents at Walmart, so it's even cheaper if you go to Walmart. And basically all you do is rub your hard card on the front of your transfer tape, peel your decal away from the paper backing, and then place it onto your surface wherever you want. You will re-rub your hard card on top of your decal. And actually I want to point out here too that I'm starting in the middle and working my way out to the sides on these decals as I apply them. And then once you have all of the air bubbles out of your vinyl, you can then remove your transfer tape off of the top to reveal your beautiful decal on the fronts of your mugs. These ideas inspired you. If they did, please hit that thumbs up button. Also subscribe if you haven't yet for weekly DIYs, tutorials, and new inspiration. Also let me know down in the comments below which one of these 20 Easter ideas was your favorite. And I want to thank you all so much for watching today. I will see you in the next one. Have a very creative day.